Welcome to the Rich Mind Podcast.
All right, everyone, welcome back. And over the last few days, I've been diving deep into a Bob Proctor program. I can get the link. I don't remember exactly what it's called, to be quite honest with you. It's actually a recording that he did many years ago. Unfortunately, he's passed. It's been, I think, 2022 when he passed. It's been 2 or 3 years since he has passed, which is unfortunate. But this was a recording he did at a seminar he was doing, which is fantastic. And the main topic that he discussed in this seminar that I'm really trying to sit with, and I've got Adrienne along here with me today. So it's going to be a good discussion. We're going to dive into paradigms. That was the main topic of the seminar he hosted many years ago. I want to go a little bit deeper into that. I want to try to articulate what that is for myself, but then have Adrienne kind of bounce some different ideas. Maybe we'll give some examples in her own life. But from what I understand and what he's trying to teach, what Bob Proctor's trying to teach, is the paradigm is basically the software. So think of a computer. The computer, the hardware, you've got the screen, you've got the keyboard, you've got the computer itself. But it runs on software. And without the software, the computer doesn't work. And that's basically how we are programmed from little children all the way up until our adult life. So that early phase of life, so from when we are born until, let's say, 7, 8, 9 years old, when we don't have the ability to reason, to think for ourselves, we're basically just getting programmed through our environment, through the people that we're associated with, our family, anybody we come in contact with. So a lot of those things form our paradigm. And from that formation, basically that leads us for the rest of our life. And so if we're struggling in any area of our life, whether it's from a relationship standpoint, whether it's from a health standpoint, whether it's from a financial standpoint, whatever that is, that category you're trying to prove upon, we run that system, or we run the problems or the day-to-day activities through this paradigm, and then we get a result. And from that result, we then obviously get what's going on in our outside 3D world. Anyways, hopefully I articulated that well. Adrienne's going to help me kind of pull that apart a little bit further, talk about this software program, this paradigm that's within us. This is information that I just have recently learned. So I didn't know any of these things until I dove deep into the personal development, which has been the last 15 years of my life. So say mid to late 30s until now is when I've really dove into that a lot. So what I do is I learn something and then I try to apply it. And so what I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying to go back into old programs that I can then try to redo in my own mind and think through, how do they fit? How can I make my life better? And then obviously make the lives better all around me, right? So obviously having my daughter here, she can articulate if I'm doing well or not. Obviously I'm trying to even do better for Rowan, as you know, or may not know, having a grandson that is almost 2 years old. I'm trying to really be aware of that with him, aware that he is consuming everything I say, consuming everything I do, everything that's going on around him. He doesn't have the ability to reject it, so he's taking it all in. And I know that that's going to impact him later on in life. So I'm hyper aware of that, and I'm trying to be as good about that as I possibly can. So that's another sidebar part of the conversation we can go down. So anyways, without further ado, Adrienne, help me with some paradigms. We discussed a little bit before we hit record. You said that resonated with you as far as the topic. When I say all that here at the beginning, what strikes you first?
Yeah. So similarly to how you explained it, kind of as a system, another word that I've used in the past to kind of get through the different paradigms is almost like you run all of your thoughts, all of your actions, all of your feelings, almost through like a filtering system where like you said, when we're taught when we're young, we don't really question it anymore. And as you learn to question it, like you've said for a long time, question everything, even me. Because I've learned everything from you, and we're all still learning. One of the biggest ways we're taught and everything is in absolutes. You're either right or you're wrong. It's on or it's off. You're good or you're bad. And there's not a whole lot of wiggle room in the middle. And it's a really strict line that you're taught. But as you grow and you kind of learn, you learn that line isn't drawn in cement, it's drawn in sand. And there's a lot of room in between those two, but they almost teach you in such a rigid way that it's uncomfortable to break between those two. So that's where we were talking before we jumped on about how there isn't necessarily black and white, but there's gray. And navigating that gray and trying to lean into the uncomfortable or the uncertainty that comes within that gray. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting when you start diving into it, and I enjoy hearing from you because you're the one that initially made me start to question it.
So I have, and you said that as far as the questioning thing, I tell you that all the time, that I'm learning and I'm sharing what I'm learning. So I want you to try it for yourself. But then that's what I mean by question me. I don't know if I'm right or not. So that goes into that whole right or wrong thing. So I'm trying to be right when in reality, I just need to keep testing, keep trying. So I say a lot of times though too, that, we are brought up with rules, which I understand there needs to be laws. You don't, not hurting people, all those kinds of things. I understand we need those kinds of rules in our society, but I think as you mentioned, it's tough as you're being brought up that everything is so rigid. It's either you're good or you're bad. It's either you get an A or an F, and anything in between is not considered, you're still considered bad, right? If you don't have an A or better, or, the A, B honor roll, I can remember that growing up, and I was never on there very often. So yeah, I was always bad. I would be considered bad in my household. And so you just grow up with that, thinking that I'm just not smart. I say that a lot, even to, and I told you before, I'm trying to take that vocabulary out of my mind. I need to quit saying that, because every time I say it, I'm solidifying it more into that filter, into that paradigm of who I am. When in reality, I'm actually very smart. I'm just not smart in the way I was tested in school, if that makes any sense. That's been my challenge, is I was brought up in a way that I didn't necessarily fit the mold of the scholar, school student, of the, you name it. I mean, even sports. I was pretty good in sports, but I was never the superstar athlete. I was always average. I was a little bit better than average, meaning with ability, but height-wise, I was average. My hands for basketball, they're too small. I can't, playing with Rowan, he's got these little balls playing around the house. I can barely palm those little balls. It's like, I look at my hands like, how in the world did I get such small hands? Anyways, I mean, it's just stupid stuff like that. So I'm trying to put labels on stuff that then when it falls through those filters of thinking that I'm not good enough, I'm not big enough, I'm not smart enough, it's always kept me playing small. And so what I've had to learn from myself going through programs like Bob's, talking about paradigms, is realizing, like you said, is that I've heard this from Bob, I've heard this from David Nagel all the time, that there is no right or wrong. There is no black or white. Everything just is. And when I heard that for the first time, my head, I think it exploded. It's like, what is that? What does that even mean? And I've had to really do some searching within myself to figure that out, which once again, so having our conversations like this is going to definitely help me. I assume that that's similar to what you're thinking as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can think of one big example of the just is thinking that we've all had to experience, and whether you see it the same way I do or not, was 5 years ago in the COVID time. You weren't just my dad, you were also my boss. I was doing the Amazon shopping, and that could very easily have been a black and white situation. And I remember processing it in the motion, and I remember it would be like 6, 7 o'clock at night. We would have wrapped up for the day at 3. And I remember you were wanting to talk about work the next day. And I remember in my head, and you're going to laugh at this, but I remember being like, okay, I'm not working right now. I'm clocked out. I don't want to talk to my boss about work. I'm not working right now. I want to sit here and be with my dad. But that was a separation that I was trying to make in a time where it just was. There was no real separation because we needed to prepare for the next day. And that wasn't something we had done while we were quote unquote in the business hours. since I was around you guys all the time, I was still living at home at that point. We were around each other 24/7, especially during the shutdown when we weren't doing anything else. That was when we really did dive into working and working hard. And that is just one example that I can think of right away, even with you and I personally in our own lives, of there not being that separation of dad and boss. It was like my dad and my boss are the same person, and I have to navigate how to have those different conversations at different times.
So I remember those times,
Yeah.
and that was challenging. We were all going through challenges. And so I had a small business that I was trying to keep afloat. So yeah, I probably didn't turn it off as much as I could have or should have. So I apologize for that. I don't think we've ever had that discussion. But at the same time, yeah, that separation piece is tough. So with paradigms, I'm thinking through even how I would articulate this to you folks listening to us today. And part of it also, I believe, is when I go into talking about triggers and our triggers that we have. So we'll get triggered within our paradigm. That's kind of how I see it. So thoughts, ideas, opportunities. I've said often that opportunities are everywhere if you're looking for them, if you're open to seeing them. So when you do see an opportunity, or when you do hear of an opportunity, or when you do think of needing to change, move on, change jobs, leave a relationship, buy a new car, buy a new house, right? So big decisions. I'm not talking about what you're going to have for dinner. I'm not talking about small stuff that isn't necessarily as important as the big stuff. So when big opportunities show up for you to make big person decisions, you'll run it through that paradigm, which for me is an instant trigger. I would instantly get triggered into these past beliefs, thinking that I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough. I would go into the what ifs of what if this doesn't turn out well? What if I screw this up? So once again, it gets into that black and white, thinking that there was a right and a wrong versus realizing. So once again, I've had to learn this, and I've learned this from David and Bob as well, that what happens is when you make the decision through your paradigm, you make the decision to move forward, that you're going to move forward, and you might not know the next step or even the next 2 or 3 steps. And you don't need to worry about those steps because they will fall into place. And then you can make a different decision in those moments. Your only job is to live today, in this moment, right now, the best that you possibly can. Make the best decision you can with the information that you've been given, and then step into it with faith and belief that it's all going to work out. Now, I know, in my opinion, the faith and belief, those terms can be used in a religious standpoint, and that's not where I'm coming from with this. It's more of it's a feeling of belief within yourself and a faith within yourself that it's going to work out in the long run the way it's supposed to. That's been challenging for me to really work through that in my own mind.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I hold on to as well in those moments where it's time to make a big decision like that, um, is holding on to that thought. And something I've heard along the way is that, yes, making a decision is hard and taking action is a hard thing to do, but choosing not to make that decision and choosing not to take action is also a choice. And that's an even harder choice to live with further down the line. Is it harder to lean in, trust your instincts, and get something at least started? It doesn't have to be finished, but it has to at least be started. You have to take that first step in order to reach the finish line. So if you never start, you never know where it's going to end. Or everyone always is like, hindsight is 2020, and living with regret is another big one. So making that choice to not start or to not think about it or to push it away is also a choice you have to live with. So is it harder to begin and start to push through the paradigm and push your thoughts through the filter and potentially break the filter, really, because it's not going to come out one way or the other because of limiting beliefs or whatever. If that's stopping you from beginning, don't put the thought through the filter. Don't just get rid of it altogether and this is just going to be what it's going to be. And one thing that I've told myself for a long time is it's just what's meant for me will find me. Anything else is not my business. And let me say that again. What's meant for me will find me, and anything else is none of my business.
So I love that. So go into the it's none of my business part, because I think that that would be the pushback somebody might have out there listening today. So one thing that I've heard here lately as well, the things that I listen to, is that when we worry about what other people are thinking about us, that sometimes will keep us from stepping into the bigger, better version of ourselves as well. When in reality, it's none of our business what people think about us. It has nothing to do with us. It's what we think about ourselves is what's most important. Maybe articulate that a little bit more as far as the it's none of my business. I love that part.
Thank you. Yeah, so that makes me think back to before we started jumping on, and you had mentioned it briefly before, is the whole school thing where everyone always says there's an A or there's an F. Well, there's B, C, D, and E in the middle. And
I got a lot of E's.
there's maybe not E's in school, but
But
they're
I
still
would have
in there.
got him
They
if
skip
they were
that
there.
one.
I would have got E's. That's for sure. If there was anything less than a D, and I would have gotten
Hey.
that.
And I had said before we jumped on that that had applied to me too. I wasn't necessarily an A and I wasn't necessarily an F student. And you kind of chuckled and said, well, that's because you just didn't apply yourself.
You are the smartest young lady I know. From an IQ standpoint, you and your mom have got this gift of knowledge, and your siblings do too. It's amazing. It skipped me, and it came from your mom, but you guys are IQ smart. So yeah, you just didn't apply yourself to do well in school. Which, anyways, that's a whole nother subject. But please continue. I just wanted to put that out there. That it wasn't because of lack of IQ, because you're the smartest young lady I know.
Well, thank you. But that is what kind of kickstarted that none of my business thought, was that I can do what I need to do to get through. Because school was, I didn't care for school, really. I was there because I had to be there. I had the right grades to pass. I could pass the tests. I could do what I needed to do the song and dance, do the motions, get through it, and be able to go do what I wanted to do. I just knew that it was a placeholder. And I knew from being at home that, yeah, I probably could have been on a roll. Probably could have done A's and B's. I probably could have done it. But I didn't feel that drive within myself. That didn't matter to me. The letter on the piece of paper, the numbers, it didn't mean anything to me. It meant something to those who were looking at me. Some people saw it as like part of themselves, that if I don't get these good grades, if I'm not a good student, I don't have worth, quote unquote, worth when it comes to school. For me, it was a time and place I had to be there. I didn't have a choice. I just had to do good enough to get through. So anything beyond that, I didn't mind. It was there again. It was part of that none of my business. So yeah, the teachers probably were like, yeah, she can do good. And my mom was like, hey, you can do a lot better. But Adrienne, I was happy with where I was at. I knew I was doing good enough. I was fine. I was able to put more of my time, more of my effort, more of my skills into things that I believed were going to serve me better in the future. I was able to focus on things I thought were more aligned with my path rather than spending the time sitting there crunching math problems to pass a math test next Tuesday. I knew it well enough. It was good enough.
And the thing
And
with
that,
information
yeah.
these days in AI, it's like you don't need to know any of it. You don't need to, yeah, you don't need to know any of
No.
it. That's the ironic part of where we are in today's society. That's the
Yeah.
funny part.
Yeah. So going back to that's none of my business is, and even growing up too, and you probably relate to this too. Like I had some friends, but I wasn't like the most popular person. Like I was well known, but I wasn't popular. So growing up and getting away from that small town, small circle mindset is finding that sense of self and knowing that I don't need to be popular. I don't need to be the prettiest girl in school. I don't need to have the most money. But to me, it matters more to be kind, to be nice, to be well received, to be able to talk to people, to be able to create relationships. That was what meant more to me. And anything that wasn't aligned in those values or anything that I didn't think was going to serve me went back into that none of my business mindset. If it was going to distract me from where I wanted to go or who I wanted to be or what I wanted to become, I didn't focus on it. It wasn't going to serve me. It wasn't going to bring me to where I wanted to be. And then that goes back into the first part. What's meant for me will be. because I believe in putting it into the universe, or you can say God, or you can say whatever you need to say. I prefer like manifest in the universe and things like that. That's just me. So that's where I believe putting my effort, putting my time, putting my energy towards growing to who I want to be is what's going to help allow me to become that. And anything that's negative going forward or pushing against that, if I put my energy towards that, and that could be the triggers, that could be being down, that could be sitting and mulling and thinking about, well, that was so embarrassing. What did that person think of me? I didn't come off the right way. That's going to negatively impact your own self-esteem, your self-image. That's going to create more bumps in the road on your path to who you are and who you want to be. So if I don't put my focus towards those things, tell myself that's none of my business, I need to keep going on the direction I'm going, then there aren't as many distractions. And it's easier to avoid those distractions. And when they come, when the triggers present themselves, to be able to, and this is something you and I have talked about quite a bit and been working on quite a bit, is being able to recognize them in the moment when they're happening, when the trigger is happening, and being able to sit with it, stomach it for a second, realize this is what's happening, and being able to mentally process through it in the moment and realize, what do I need to do to move forward? What can I do to either negate this trigger, make it so it's smaller, or just figure out how to work through it until it does shrink on its own? Because time heals most things. Time heals a lot of things. And the more time you sit with negative feelings, it hinders that growth. So if you can tell yourself that the none of my business aspect, or I need to find the positive in this. Everyone's always told me I pride myself on being able to find the bright side of situations and being able to take a negative situation and be like, yeah, that really sucks. But on the other hand, you're growing. That's why they call it growing pains. Growth isn't easy, but the more you can rely on others, and at the end of the day, rely on yourself. Because the one person you have at the end of every single day and the start of every morning is yourself. And once you can lean on yourself and I've got me. I've got me. I like hearing it from other people, so does everybody. But at the end of the day, I've got me and nothing else matters. And that's what helps me each day.
So when you get triggered, I've tried to articulate that so people might be able to recognize that from within themselves. I assume you still have triggers. I assume you still have days that you're not necessarily feeling it, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Tell me how that transpires within you. Like you said, you and I talk about this. So we are trying to catch them in real time. That's how I say it. And I think you've kind of picked up on that as well. So when you have a trigger, walk me through that. What does that look then for you?
Yeah. So one thing that I've worked on a lot here recently, and I mentioned it to you a few months ago, maybe, was when you're feeling triggered and you're feeling in your emotions and you're feeling all these negative thoughts, so it almost feels like a paradigm. It might not quite like quantify as that, but everyone's always so quick to say, oh, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm depressed. Those I am statements make it feel even deeper within your subconscious. You're subconsciously telling yourself these negative feelings are me. And they're not, they're just feelings. So trying to recreate those or rework those thoughts into, I am feeling frustrated, I am feeling sad, helps me to recognize that it's a trigger, it's a feeling, it's not you in the moment. And that's when you have those days and those times where you can look at yourself and be like, I'm not really feeling this. And it's in a negative sense, right? I don't feel like doing this today. Well, you feel a lot of different things throughout the course of a day. You can feel whatever you want to feel, but you still have to make the right choice. You still have to choose the right thing. You can feel whatever way you want to feel, and that comes with triggers too. You can be around someone you don't appreciate and you can get annoyed and frustrated by whatever they're saying. And unless you make the choice to either leave the room, stop talking to the person, or whatever, you're going to have to sit there in those feelings. And it's up to you. It's not up to that person. It's not their fault. It's not anything. They didn't do anything wrong. They're just being them. Is a major trigger that I have had to work with, and you've helped me work with. It's not, and this is something you've told me for a long time since I was quite young. It's not the noise outside. It's not what they're doing to me. It's me. It's me internally. What am I thinking? What is going on inside my own head that I do have control over? What is it about me that I can change to make this better? It's not their fault. They're not doing anything to me.
Yes, 100%. So like you said, the separation, but that's where that paradigm kicks in. So it's running through that paradigm, and that's that monkey mind is going crazy, telling you that you made the example as far as somebody might be annoying you with a conversation or in a room or something like that. And they're not doing anything to you at all. You're making the choice in your own mind and placing a label on it that you're feeling frustrated or you're feeling annoyed. And I love that, how you brought that up too, as far as your I am statements. And that's how I get myself centered, is I use that all the time. I am continuously in my mind, bringing myself back to center, bringing myself back to like feeling like I'm in control with my I am statements. And so I like how you said that as well. So pulling that label of feeling bad or feeling tired or but don't put the I am in front of it, because that's what's going to be buried deep within you, that's where you've got to get that separation. Now you can be tired, but just be very careful with how you're using your words. Very careful, because you're speaking it into existence every single day. So I used the reference earlier today about how lately being my whole entire life, I've always claimed that I'm not very smart. I've always said that. And I'm actively working on trying to eliminate that vocabulary from my words. I need to stop saying that, because it's not true. I'm putting a label on myself through my own paradigm that's keeping me small. It's keeping me thinking that I can't accomplish things. It's keeping me worried about what I'm saying, how I'm saying it, whatever. And so that's what I'm actively trying to do every single day. And I love how you said that as well for yourself, because if you don't, I always say, if you're not getting in the driver's seat of your life with your own thoughts, with your own ideas, so our imagination and all the different ideas, if you're not in control of that chaos that's going on in your mind, because in reality, it's really what it is, because it's nonstop, it's 24/7, it's day or night, all the time. Things are going on in your mind, what you're thinking, how you're feeling. But if you're not in control, if you feel like the chaos is really out of control in your own mind, that's going to be where you're going to possibly feel overwhelmed, a little anxious. Maybe you're not achieving what you want to achieve. I love how you said that, as far as it's none of anybody's business but mine, to my own level of achievement that I want to achieve. I love how you said that as well. It's tough. I say that a lot too. And I've told you this, Adrienne, all the time, that it's the hardest work you will ever do. But I promise you that if you're committed to doing it, which I am for myself, and it sounds like you're working on it for yourself as well, I'm telling you that the leaps and bounds that you can make in your own life. So you knew me growing up, the old me of not necessarily being, I would consider myself a pessimist. I'm not an optimist. It's like when you said that about yourself, that's awesome. Good for you. I wish, and I'm trying to become more every single day. It's hard. Because of this paradigm in my life, I've always looked at the glass half empty versus half full. Always. And so that's the filter I run things through. And I'm fighting that every single day. It's hard. But I will tell you that I've made tremendous strides. And hopefully, Adrienne, you can support me in that thought. You've had firsthand knowledge of seeing me prior to personal development to today. And I'm still actively trying to get better at it also every day as well. But if you commit to doing the work, I promise you, the life that you can begin to lead. So it's like I've got my almost 26-year-old daughter here with me, and it's so much fun to see her blossom into this person that she's becoming. I'm so excited because she's going to take what I'm learning and the discussions that we're having. She's going to interpret it in her own way, and then articulate it either to herself or to her family as it begins to grow, where does that lead generations in the future? That's it. I get so excited thinking about that. So anyways, congratulations on everything that you're doing for yourself. But yeah, I just want to articulate that if you can just take control, get in the driver's seat, become aware of these triggers, become aware of your paradigms, what's holding you back, what's keeping you from moving forward, and then just really sit with those feelings, sit with those emotions, sit with those thoughts that are going on that are keeping you from moving forward, and understand that, like you said, it's just a choice. You can either choose to listen to them and let them control your life, or you can choose to acknowledge them. It's not that they don't exist, but you can choose to discount them. You can choose to not listen. You can choose to then step into the decision that you need to make anyways, knowing that it's going to work out in the end, exactly the way it's supposed to. I loved how you said that. That's fantastic.
Thank you. One more thing I wanted to mention too, when you're talking about growth and moving forward and all those kinds of things, putting that even just some people will say they feel like they're taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back as part of kind of that counteracting their own growth. But you have to remember, even 1 step forward is still moving forward. You don't have to move quickly. You don't have to move mountains. You don't have to run the marathon all today. If you just take it 1 step at a time, and whether that starts with leaning into your I am statements, if that starts with stopping with those limiting beliefs or letting others feel and think what they need, stop with the wondering what everyone thinks of you. If that's recognizing your triggers, that's a big part even of itself. Is one is realizing when you are triggered and what was it. That was a huge that's a huge step. That's big, is figuring out, okay, I'm feeling this right now. Why? Even just starting there, a small step is still a step. And as long as you choose to begin, you're already doing better than a big, big group of people.
If you're listening to us now, and if you've gotten this far into this episode, you are well ahead than most of the people in the world. So just having discussions like this are deeper than what you're going to hear on the surface level type conversations out there. And that's why I wanted to bring Adrienne on to kind of help me try to bring some of this information out the best way I possibly can. And obviously then get her spin on it as well. So hopefully you're finding value in that, because we're just humans, just like you are. And we're just trying to figure this out just like you are. And so what I want to do with the podcast, and what I've tried to do now almost 3 years into it, is just share some real life experiences that maybe will resonate with you in a certain way. So that way you can see it within yourself. Maybe you'll get triggered as soon as you get off this episode here today. And if you can recognize that in the moment, or at least relatively soon afterwards, I promise you that's the beginning step. That's realizing where that threshold of your paradigm is, and then questioning why. Why did it happen? Is this something that you were taught growing up? Is this something that you took on from family, from friends, from society at large, from social media? I mean, you need to determine what that why is. And when you come up with that answer, you then will, when you get triggered by the same thing, because it's going to happen again in the future, the pain, the feeling, the discomfort, it's actually going to be less, because you're going to already know where it came from, why it showed up, and you're going to already know what you need to do next. I always harp on journaling. Journaling for me has been the best thing, meaning getting my thoughts when I get triggered out of my head on paper helps me to almost make it real. Like it's a separation piece. It makes it so it's not me. It feels like it's outside of me. And when I can do that, then I feel better almost instantly. So I just encourage you again, begin that journaling process. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be some fancy journal, just a piece of paper. It can be anything. It can be your notepad on your phone. I mean, just speak to it. The point is just get your thoughts that are going on in your mind out from you, so that way you can start recognize them as they're happening more often. So, sweetheart, I appreciate the conversation. Is there anything else you want to wrap this up with here today before we start bringing this one for a close? This is, as always, has been a fun conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as the getting it out portion, I do something even a little bit different too,
Sure,
for
please.
myself. So journaling, I haven't gotten over that threshold that you have mentioned before where you feel kind of silly in the middle of it and you start kind of second guessing what you're writing. And if you've been doing it for, you're just sitting there for so long and now you're like, "Oh, I don't really even feel this stuff anymore. What in the world?" I've done it forever where I just kind of vent and I'm better about like saying my words as I'm thinking them and then going back and listening to them. So I'll record myself in voice memos or I'll sit there and start a video on my phone and have headphones in and just sit there and just talk. Just talk through your feelings because you don't necessarily need a second party to have like a full on conversation with because you're having that conversation with yourself in your brain and then sitting and then just letting it be. Don't listen to it. Give yourself 20 minutes, go for a walk, take a shower, do something productive, do something to feel like you've accomplished something, now that you've got it all off your chest. Go back and listen to it because you're telling yourself what your triggers are. That's just something that's helped me. And even not having the physical journal part of it, but just getting it out in the moment. Because that's another part that's hindering your growth too, is if you hold on to that negative emotion and those negative thoughts, it's just gonna stunt your growth, and you have so much room for growth, especially if you listen to the Rich Mind podcast. Yeah,
Love it. Love it. So I appreciate you coming on, sweetheart.
yeah.
This is so much
Thank you
fun.
for having me.
Yeah, we'll keep going with future conversations as well. So, folks, hopefully you found this message valuable. We appreciate your time and attention. If you've made it this far in the episode, if you wouldn't mind sharing this with your family and friends, help us spread the word of the Rich Mind podcast as far and as wide as possible. We would greatly appreciate that. Once again, I'm just trying to share some real life information, things that I'm learning in real time from the greats out there. I've listened to it all. I've read the books, or at least a lot of the books, a lot of the audio programs, and I'm trying to put it to work in my own life. And then I share it with people that are close to me, like Adrienne, like the rest of my family, that they are then taking some of the information and applying it into their life, which is fun for me to see. So hopefully you can take this information, think about it once you jump off this episode, and really start trying to see where your paradigm is keeping you from moving forward. Where are you falling a little bit short from your achievement, whatever level you're trying to accomplish, because of this paradigm that's keeping you from really seeing life as it is, which is just fantastic. It really is out there. Don't listen to all the stuff that's out there telling you that things are bad and it's awful, and look for the good. Seek the good and you will find the good. I promise you, that's what I've tried to do every single day. And if you do that, you'll be much better off for yourself as well. So once again, focus on being great. Have a fantastic day. And I look forward to coming back with Adrienne and the next episode of the Rich Mind podcast very soon. Until then, folks, bye now.
Thank you for joining us today on the Rich Mind podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like and share it with someone you know. Also, don't forget to subscribe on your favorite platform and never miss an episode. One last thing, don't ever forget that your mind is the first place where wealth is created. Keep dreaming big, take action, and together, let's build wealth, a legacy, and a life we love.